questions, and feel free, like either of you guys can jump in and respond.
Okay, sounds good.
So. Hello and welcome to another Facebook Live interview brought to you by BookTrib, the leading source of book news and reviews. I'm Daniela Ramris, and I'm part of the BookTrib editorial team. And today I'm honored to speak with the most decorated American professional soccer player, male or female of all time, Christie Pearce Rampone, as well as the renowned neuropsychologist, Dr. Keane. And as some background for our viewers, Christie is a two-time FIFA World Cup champion, three-time Olympic gold medalist, and a professional and youth sports coach and sports commentator. She's here today with Dr. Keane, a neuropsychologist, clinical director of two multi-specialty neuropsychology practices, and clinical director of a neuroscience concussion program. And she's been working with professional and youth athletes for the past 20 years. So these ladies are co-authors of the new book, Be All In, Raising Kids for Success in Sports and Life. So this book is designed for parents and coaches to help foster good sportsmanship and success in both their athlete life and life in general for their children, and turn these skills that they learn in sports into lifelong skills. So welcome, ladies. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'd like to just start by, if you guys could tell us a little bit about how you two met and how the book came about.
Yeah, so we met about 5 years ago working for the same company, and we just got started talking about the pressures that kids are dealing with in sports from both of our backgrounds. You know, Dr. Keane in the clinical side and the science side, a mother of three, as well as myself with the experience of playing, coaching, being a mom of two daughters. We just got talking a lot, and we just decided that we wanted to give back, you know, with all of our experiences, and kind of put up all our thoughts down on paper and write this book to help kids and parents navigate a better climate through sport.
We saw so many parents put so much time and energy and
Money.
so much of their family into youth sports, and we felt like there was a lot of pressure placed on kids to succeed. So we really wanted to help parents navigate some of that and create like a guidebook on how to get the most out of sports that you can glean to learn lifelong skills. Not everyone's going to play professionally or at a college level, so we want to help parents have the best experience they could have and get the most out of sports.
Yeah, and you know, I have to say, like, I really enjoyed reading the book because I myself grew up playing competitive tennis, and I play on a sports team in college now. So I really related to everything that was mentioned in the book, and I really wish that my parents could have gotten their hands on this book to kind of help foster some better like sportsmanship, and just to make the whole process a little bit more like manageable. And so I'd like to ask you guys kind of what are kind of some of your key tips for parents who are dealing with kind of the stressful environment of competitive sports, and kind of all the ups and downs that come with that, and kind of just staying in a more positive mindset the whole time.
Yeah, I think we just, you know, always talk throughout the book about the education piece and just awareness of yourself as a parent, of like what your relationship with the sports as well as your child's relationship with sports, and hopefully it compares, and just having that open communication and rapport throughout the process. Because I think a lot of parents want instant gratification through sports, and it's really about the journey and making sure your kid is dictating that journey as an athlete, and, you know, having the awareness of knowing when, you know, the ups and downs through the wins and the losses and injuries and the pressures and the anxiety, and performance anxiety, and having a good understanding of sports isn't about just what you see. There's so much of the mental game and the preparation that goes into it. And, just having that self-awareness and self-compassion for what's going on in the world. And when your kid steps up to go compete, of just allowing them to express themselves and be on that journey with them rather than necessarily dictating and being in control. And you are a role model, whether you like it or not, as a parent. And kids are sponges and they see and embrace everything that's going on. And, just being aware of your emotions and when they get the best of you as well as your child, and just having that better relationship through sport.
And parents are so overprotective and hypervigilant sometimes. And we talk a lot about teaching kids how to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. We talk about some helicopter parenting and some lawnmower parenting, where we kind of mow down the problem before the kid gets there. And sports are a really great breeding ground to let kids experience some disappointment and some losses and learn from them.
Yeah, and what sort of key life lessons would you say that, both the parents and the children can really gain from playing sports, whether competitive or not?
Well, we talk about like winning is a byproduct of developing, and developing comes from the trust in the process. So it's being able to allow your kids to go out there and fail and make mistakes and understand, like, you're going to win some, you're going to lose some, but like how to communicate with your child after that, like the car ride home, or for instance, the car ride to a training environment, making sure you're dropping off your kid in a good headspace, and not having that, we're unorganized, we're in the car, it's stressful, I'm dropping off my kid, they're already stressed. Now what is the coach now the coach has to bring them into a different emotional state. And it's just truly awareness. And the book is a lot about just guidelines of, how to prepare, how to organize, how to have, almost a family mission statement of like what your relationship with sports is, and like having that open communication, because it's a stressful time. Sports should be fun, but there's so many distractions in life, whether it's coming from your own child's self-confidence, the parents on the sidelines yelling, whether it's the relationship with the coach, but just having that open rapport and just making sure that you're communicating and having those tough conversations with your child. It's not easy, but that's what we talk about, is like not sugarcoating everything, and, letting your kid know, like, this is the real world and you're learning so many great life lessons through team sports.
Parents ask us all the time, like, how do I help my child be more mentally tough? Or how do I help them handle performance anxiety or fear of failure, things like that? And we really get into that in the book, very specifically about how parents can do that, because the younger they are, coaches aren't really addressing those things. The coaches are working on skill development or things related to the game. So parents can really come in there and really augment their experience and teach those things that really will carry them the rest of their life.
Yeah, and I think that's so important, is that, these skills are not just for success in sports, they're for success in everyday life. And I think, even some of the skills that you learn of learning with losses can be applied to learning about how to deal with like a bad grade in school or something like that, or just losses in life in general. And I think, especially as a student athlete growing up, a lot of times it's difficult to balance the sports with the kind of academic responsibilities and also a social life. And especially if your social life isn't mainly for your team, like if you play an individual sport. So I'd love to hear what you guys think about managing all that, the birthday parties and social life, academics, and sports.
So we say there's no one size that fits all. So everybody, Christie talks about this all the time, everyone has a different relationship with sports. Everyone's going to play at different levels. So you really have to take a step back and be mindful about how your family, how the sports are commensurate with your family's values and goals. So you may have one child who's a great athlete looking to play in college, another one who's not. And obviously going from game to game, weekend to weekend is going to affect maybe your third child's life. So what we're asking parents to do in the book and teaching are some mindfulness exercises for the family to step back, take a break, not get swept up in all of the youth sports environment, that you take a step back and look at, how does this fit with our family? And how does this fit with each member of our family, not just the one child who's, on the field or on the court all weekend. And for every family, that's going to be different. For some families, the entire family being in different fields, different courts all weekend, that fits. For other families, that might be one child's getting left behind. So it's really about just taking a look at, like, how does this match up for you?
We do talk about that balance in life and like having identity outside of sports, because you don't want to be too embracing the sport that when it's finally over and you graduate as a senior, whether that be high school or college, like, who are you? And that's why we're trying to help parents have these guidelines of saying, like, you do need to have a balance. And sometimes it is okay if they do miss a practice for an important event, but the communication has to be clear with the coach, and the teammates of maybe why you're missing out. But if you put everything into just competing and you lose who you are as a person, like, and you're going to have that loss later on in life and have to deal with, those issues. So we're trying to kind of, get onto those tasks early with parents and letting them know, like, your kid needs an identity outside of sport. And, if it is their social life, that is like being on the field, and that's why we have named this book Be All In, because we want you to be all in and be present in the moment of, your social life, sports, and, and outside of your outside relationships as well. So it's an all encompassing a balance is what we're trying to ask within our parents, athletes, coaches.
Yeah, I think that's really key, is just finding a balance. And like Dr. Keane said, it is also dependent on the family and on the child themselves, because everyone is different a little bit. And I think people have different priorities and different goals with what they want to achieve in different areas of their life. And I think, it also does depend on kind of the personality of the player or of the parents also. And I'd love to hear what you guys think about different personality types and, introverted, extroverted, maybe more of a team player, maybe not, and whether, they all have equal potential in succeeding and enjoying sports. And if you think some personality types are better for certain sports or other sports, and kind of how parents can see, okay, my child is this way, so they should play in this sport, or they would do well in this sport.
So I'll let you talk on this, but I will say, from listening to all of Christie's stories, so many that we wrote in the book, it was so inspiring to hear how the personality difference between Christie and Abby Wambach, and how they led the national team, and they led in such different ways, two different personalities, and it just really, really worked. So and again, it goes back to like there's no one personality. Like if I've learned anything from Christie, it's when you're on a team, the introvert, the extrovert, the leader, the follower, everyone has their place.
I said personalities make up a team, right? And everybody has different roles, and just understanding those roles, like someone may have a louder voice than somebody else. Someone may want to be on the outside of the circle in a huddle, like taking it all in. There's the good listeners, but it's all those different personalities that make up a great team. But it's being on a team and understanding and like embracing the weaknesses of maybe your teammate, and like accepting those weaknesses, and like just celebrating the strengths, because that's what it's part is, like understanding the mentality of your teammate. And that all comes from communication, because if you're not discussing and talking and having a good rapport about like a training session versus a game, like you may not connect with your teammates. And I would say sports is about the relationships you build on the field and understanding, you know, maybe somebody doesn't have as much confidence on game day as they do at practice. And like taking a step back and understanding that, and then having those conversations with your child, you know, as an athlete, and understanding like, hey, the reason this one may be more vocal is maybe she doesn't have as much confidence. And the way that she gets into the game is maybe by having a louder voice. And you just have to learn how to kind of like not make that a distraction for you in a game. You know, but those are just like fun conversations you can have because every child is different. Like we said, the relationship with sport is different. The pressure is different, maybe coming from that household versus your household. But those are the things that we love to discuss, you know, with our own children, is like being aware. You know, like I went through a divorce, you know, a few years ago, and I realized like, you know, maybe I was a little bit more feisty with my kids if I was having a bad day. But it was like, I was aware of that by understanding, even writing this book, of like, when people come to the field, you don't know what's happened at home. You don't know what's happening in their life. And you have to just allow them to be compassionate, you know, and just not necessarily make it somebody else's fault or their mistake. It's like having those conversations with the kids are what I enjoy about the whole sports, is identifying that people are different and do have different personalities, and there may be a reason, but just embracing that and taking their strengths and absorbing that, and like being a good person and being a good teammate.
Yeah, I think that's so important to remember also, is that sometimes you do have to kind of be a certain way during the game or during the match, and it might not always come naturally to some kids.
Mm-hmm.
I know for myself, I was extremely introverted and very shy, and so it was hard for me come like competitions to, you know, especially on the tennis court, you do have to like celebrate your wins a little bit and
Mm-hmm.
kind of, you know, call the ball out very loudly and like kind of
Right.
assert your domination. And I know I was like very timid and it was very difficult for me, but I think it did end up, you know, serving me in life actually, because you are oftentimes kind of challenged in the sport to not become a different person necessarily, but maybe adjust your personality in ways that make it, if you're on a team, maybe make it easier to be a good teammate, or
Mm-hmm.
if it's an individual sport, to kind of assert your kind of individuality a little bit more.
Yeah.
And what do you guys think about kind of individual sports? Because I think those are kind of a unique pressure when you're playing
Mm-hmm.
track, or running track, or doing swim, or playing tennis, or other individual sports where it's really just you and maybe your parents as your support team. And what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I do agree that pressures with an individual sport, they are different because you're relying just on yourself and you don't have a team to help you maybe through your mistakes or through your ups and downs, or those moments in the game where you're struggling, or in the match when you're struggling. But I think it's having that communication, maybe with your child that was playing an individual sport, to like, you know, focus on getting better individually each day and not comparing themselves to different opponents. Just trying to have that growth mindset to be able to continue to grow through those mistakes or through those tough times, because it's a different mentality piece, and you have to have that self-compassion for yourself and not get too hard on yourself and not let that inner voice become too negative and distract you, and just have those constant communication with your child and the athlete. Like, it is tough because you are in the spotlight as an individual athlete. Everybody is focused on you, and you have to make it about yourself, you know, and trying to continually give those positive messages to your child as an individual sport athlete. Like, you really are competing with yourself to make yourself better and not anybody else. Because once you start looking towards that other individual athlete, you take away from your growth, you know, and that's just an extra distraction you don't need.
Yeah, and do you think that kind of there's a difference between maybe if you have a team coach versus who kind of coaches the entire team, or if you have a parent as a coach, because I think sometimes that can be a little bit of a different experience when your mom or your dad is coaching you, and it's, you know, a different dynamic because, you know, they love you in a different way and they might care a little bit too much sometimes. And how do you guys think is kind of the best ways to manage that dynamic?
Well, first we say kudos to all the parent coaches. Thank you so much, because that's quite a job. And when kids are smaller, there's not enough of them a lot of the time. So these parents step up. Some of them have never even played the sport. So for other parents to understand that, because sometimes we've been in situations where you're on a field and parents are yelling at the parent coach who maybe never even played, but there was no one else to coach. So that's one scenario. Another scenario is as the kids begin to develop and get older and want to play a little bit more competitively, that's when it may be time to step down and bring in the trainer. So it's going to depend on the developmental level of the players, and then also what is the team focused on. So there are some teams that are focused on having fun. They're just playing to play. Well, a parent coach might be absolutely appropriate for that. There might be another team that's focused on winning and they want to win championships. Well, you better bring in a trainer for that. And then there are other teams that are focused on skill development and making sure the kids understand the technical of the game. Again, good idea to bring in a trainer. So in the book, we talk about having a team mission statement that, you know, we spend so much time preparing for the season, but what about 45 minutes as a team and going over, like, what do we want out of this? Like, we bring in all the stakeholders, parents, coaches. What is this team about? Because that's where the tensions come in, where there's some differences between, are we here to win? Are we here to give everyone equal playing time? Like, what are we here for as a team? And that's going to differ from team to team. But when people all get on the same page and communicate that, I think you have a better experience. So again, kudos to all the parent coaches, and you want to definitely be on a team where your coaching is appreciated and appropriate to the level of the team.
Yeah, and can you speak from any personal experience, Christy? Because I know that your father was really involved in your development as an athlete. So if you'd like to, you know, any
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I have it on two sides, because like my dad was he wasn't my individual coach, but he was a coach and coached against me. And, you know, I talk about that in the book, is like, you know, he taught me right from the start, even though I was his daughter, he was coaching against me. Like, he was there to do a job, and he was there for his players that he's been coaching. And, you know, that caused a little like conflict within the family, but it just really told me to respect and appreciate like what you're doing and who you're there for. And, you know, I transitioned into now coaching my daughter, and yeah, she's playing at a high level. And, you know, I totally understand the parent coach. Like, I have to take my emotion aside as a parent, and I'm a coach at that moment. And, you know, we have game plans, like you know, our practices are according to like maybe the team we're playing, and we're building on something. And, you know, at that moment, my daughter knows, like, we've transitioned as she's gotten into more of a elite level, that, you know, I'm your coach, I'm not your mom right now. And everything will be according to like how you're playing, and you earn it. And, you know, you will be coached exactly like the other players, and there's no favoritism. And, you know, I may say it may be a little bit harder on her, but you know, I'm very well aware of that. So I make sure that I like view her as just as every other player I would. But it takes a lot of like, you know, pulling yourself away from situations and realizing like, okay, you're not my daughter now, you are just an athlete. So it definitely internally is, I will say it is hard on parents, you know, to try to do the right thing. But if you take it as a job, and it's a process of teaching these kids and learning and developing, and, you know, the game plans, like, I think it can be obtainable. I think a parent can be a coach if they're in it for the right reasons, and that's developing the players and getting them on the right page and the right place to have success.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. I totally agree with that. I think also it's kind of a responsibility for the child that who the parent is coaching to kind of also have that kind of separation in their mind, maybe.
Mhm.
Now
Yeah,
my mom, okay, now she's my coach, and it is difficult, but I think, it can be done, like you
right.
said.
But for example, like just as simple as like, okay, you have to text the coaches if you can make practice. She has to text. She can't just come downstairs and say, Mom, I'm coming. I'm like, no, you have a responsibility. Like, I'm a coach. Like, we're asking each individual player. And, we had done Zoom calls during this quarantine and they had to submit topics they want to work on. And she chose not to one week and she didn't get let into the call. I'm downstairs doing the call, she's upstairs, and she was eliminated from the call because she didn't take the responsibility. And that's something that we also are teaching. You know, you as an athlete have to take responsibility, and you can't always rely on mom and dad to always answer emails and answer the phone calls. And that's like part of the book is like, you are old enough now, like take responsibility, and then you'll be held accountable. Even though I'm downstairs, sorry you're not allowed on the call, but it taught her a good lesson.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good advice. And do you have any advice on? I know that you used to be a four-sport athlete, Christy, and
Mm-hmm.
you played soccer, basketball, track, and field hockey. And so, how did you kind of choose to focus on soccer? And do you have any advice on choosing a sport?
Yeah, it's a great question because I always say like everybody's path to success looks a little different. I was a multiple sport athlete. I just enjoyed competing and playing, and I went from one sport onto the next. And it wasn't really until I got the call up with the national team is when I really focused in on just soccer because I went to college on a basketball scholarship and ended up having a different career path later on. And when I got invited with the national team, it's really like I kind of always say like soccer chose me in the end. When I finally got to the highest level, I realized like I was really far behind and really needed to focus in on the mentality piece of, not being the best player anymore. I was surrounded by these amazing players that just won a gold medal in 96. Like I called in 97, and it was just, you know, picking away and getting to dealing with my confidence and persevering and realizing like I was good enough to be there, but I needed to prove it and earn it. And in the end, I think I can look back and say the balance that I had throughout my life allowed me to probably go into my 40s and play at the highest level. I was a forward my whole youth career, and I became a defender at the highest level. So you can transition, but I think it was because I was taught by so many different coaches along the way and had so many different outlooks on sports and voices that it helped when I got to that highest level and how to make a transition from a position and playing on the highest team. It just all encompassing. I look back to my youth career and kind of just I'm thankful that I was able to play as many sports and have been coached by so many different voices. It allowed me to be the person I was at the highest level.
Yeah, and that's so amazing. And I still can't believe like how your whole journey is just so incredible. And um yeah, I'm just in admiration of everything that you've been able to achieve, even at such, even when you were pregnant and having
Mm-hmm.
children and then more children and everything
Right.
is just really amazing. And I know like not everyone can do it. So
Right. No, yeah, definitely not everybody can do it, but you always have to put your best foot forward. Like even through the pregnancies and injuries, you have to earn it back. It's like anything. Like my position wasn't just waiting for me because I was pregnant and having a baby. It's like that's something that you have to earn back, and that's what we talk a lot about in the book. It's just like that mental piece and the perseverance and like getting yourself back and preparing. And my routine changed and habits changed, but it's getting back at it, and then it's almost worth more when you can earn it and understand like the whole process that it does take in order to be at that level. Is pretty amazing. And I've learned that's why it was fun teaming up with Dr. King, because I learned so much about the why, like the why I was feeling the way I was feeling and why my thoughts were going the way they were going. And it was really important in the latter part of the success of my career.
Yeah, and I'd love to hear if either Christy, if you've learned anything kind of through working with Dr. Keane on this book and kind of the
Mhm.
process of writing in general, because obviously you've been very successful in soccer, but writing is a whole
The
different
whole,
thing.
yes.
And I'd love to hear if you've learned anything through this process, and also on the other side, if Dr. Keane, if you've learned anything from working with Christy.
Yeah, I mean, it was a journey for us together. Like, it was a lot of fun, a ton of work, but just learning from Dr. Keane, like the clinical side and the science side of just sports in general, that mental piece that people don't realize is so important. And I meant the mental side of it for me was huge throughout my career. I mean, I've seen so many sports psychologists. Like, I really worked on that side of my game because I am an introvert. I'm not the most confident person. Like, I shined on the field, I felt alive on the field, but it was when I was off, my thoughts got into my head. And so I definitely spoke to a lot of people. But then when we sat down to write the book, like, Dr. King just explained the why behind everything or what I was going through and through all my experiences and made it clear. It was just like, it was very interesting to sit there and talk to her and realizing that, the brain isn't really fully developed till you're 26, and all those problem solving. And, that's why kids need more guidance in sports. And, they are going to make mistakes and they are going to have this emotional piece to it. And, understanding, like, as a coach now, like, what she has taught me and how I work with the kids is so different. And it was inspiring, and it helped me and educated me to be a better coach, even through all my experience. Without Dr. Keane, like, I've learned so much, and just writing the book was fun, but it also was challenging at times. I think it's just like anything in life, you're like, we finally wrote it and now we're like, okay, now what? And now the promoting piece and realizing the depth that goes into writing a book was another great experience for me. And I'm like super happy and proud of what we've put out there, and excited to continue this like relationship and hopefully write and continue to write more. Right? That's our
For
goal.
the kids. Yeah. And then for me, I mean, so part of this process that was kind of neat was, we would meet regularly, obviously, but we've sat on sidelines. Well, my daughter plays for Christy, so there's that aspect. So I get to watch her. And then we've sat on the sidelines together and kind of observed and talked about some of the coaching and the parenting behaviors. And for me, when we first started talking and our daughters are playing together, I was just struck by, I don't see Christy yelling on the sideline. I don't see her arguing with referees. I don't see her even concerned about her daughter's playing time. So I could see her daughter being pulled. I think her daughter's spectacular. I'm thinking, why isn't she out there? Put Riley out there. And she's teaching me this is a process. This isn't about any one game. This isn't about how much playing time Riley has. It's about her individual development. Or maybe they're teaching the whole team something. The gestalt, I think, often gets lost in games. She taught me the whole crowd is focused on the ball, and people try to coach on the ball, or they're screaming in the middle of a layup, and so those are the things that I was so surprised to learn, and really changed my view of, and it was the rationale for the book of, this is really about the development of the child as they come up, not so much about the win or the championship, and so much more about what they're going to pull from this. And then, like, we have 5 children between us, ranging from 10 to, I have a senior. And so for my senior, he's off the soccer field. He's not going to continue to play soccer. And then what is that like? And what did he pull from playing? So
yeah, and I also told her to trust the process.
Yeah.
Because she was definitely, her daughter is a very good athlete, and then she was, concerned about where do I put her, what team, because the team that I'm coaching right now and helping out with is not an elite team. It's not a labeled team. We're a very good team, and they've developed, and their soccer IQ is extremely high. And I was just saying, like, these are all going to help her and it'll benefit her. And, she will have to deal with, problem solving and issues, and she's trusted us. So, like, it's all about trusting the coach and trusting
the coach.
the
is
hands
so
that you're putting
important.
you're dropping your kid off. Like if you can trust and respect who you're handing your kid off to, and you can see the development, the emotion subsides a little bit more, and like you can actually just enjoy that process with your child.
Well, Dr. Keane and her daughter are very lucky to have you as.
Oh yes.
That's awesome. Well, it looks like we're a little bit running out of time, but I do have one viewer question from the viewers that I think is really interesting. They're asking, how would you suggest that a parent help support their child who may be dealing with bullying on their team because they're not the best player, but they are there because they have fun and love to play the sport?
Yeah, I think it's for the parent is just like teaching the child to communicate with that bully and understand why the bully is saying, either through verbally or through their actions, of like whether it's throwing their hands up or showing that they don't trust their son or daughter as an athlete. It's just, facing it right away, because it'll continue to happen if you don't use your voice and make it known. And it's confronting that person, and it's hard. I'm an introvert, I'm quiet, and like it took so much to say like, hey, like how can I be a better teammate? Like I see you're getting frustrated with me, or like you continue always to yell at me. Like I need a better understanding of how I can help you be a better player. It's just having that rapport of communicating and not accusing that person of being a bully, but necessarily having an open rapport with that person and trying to teach your child how to communicate with someone that is a little bit more vocal or making you feel uncomfortable, because it's time for that person as an athlete to make the bully feel a little bit uncomfortable, but just understanding why they're the way they are, and it starts there. And, and if it still continues, then different solution, whether it's talking to other teammates or a coach. And then, the last result would be like shifting teams so that you put your child in an environment to be successful.
And you definitely want to consider the child's age and in terms of how involved you get and how you teach the child to communicate with the other child or with the coach. But the main thing that we always talk about is communication, but something that you definitely want to address.
Yeah, it seems simple. Like I just talked, but like it's something that we really don't do as often as we should. Being on a female soccer team, we always say, when I'm training, the girls are so chit-chatty right before practice, and then once it starts, they stop communicating. They don't like talk in the field, and that one vocal person usually is the one everybody knows, because they're always telling people what to do and talking, and that you don't know where that's coming from either. So like the more that your children can talk and understand and not have parent go to parent, because then that causes a little bit more issues. I think the more we can get our children to speak up for themselves and communicate and try to put their foot forward and solve their own issues, the better the situation will be.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's really good advice. And I think, as the book mentions a lot, communication is key. And I think that can really solve a lot of issues within the team. Well, thank you guys so much for this interview. And it's such an amazing opportunity to have the chance to speak with you both. And thank you to the viewers for listening in today. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. Great conversation.